Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Yeah. So, before we got on this recording, we were talking about like an old college friend of mine coming to Taiwan to visit me.
Hmm.
And then I was thinking to myself that recently there are more and more people from my past who are showing up. Just, I don't
That's
know if it's
that's.
like life bringing them towards my doorstep or
Hmm.
it's just a coincidence. I have no idea. But then people from my
Hmm.
past are like coming out of the woodworks.
Okay.
What do you think it means?
I noticed when I was taking my pat leave last year. I think we might be at that age where our lives are like still like near the pinnacle, in terms of career, whatever, and raising kids. Like you're still like steering your own life to a certain direction. But I think we're at that stage where there's a significant nostalgia
Hmm.
since we're like in our late 40s, almost 50. So I noticed during my pat leave, I had a lot of like really good friends who I really wanted to see for like the first time in a long time, and those were like the kind of people. Like I have a couple friends who I really want to meet, who I can meet if I let them know in advance, and like we have a really good time. It's like being like back in college where
Yeah,
like
yeah.
nothing's really happened, and we're just older, wiser, and busier, and maybe a little bit chubbier, but like that lunch,
Yeah,
I usually
yeah.
meet them for lunch because that's the easiest time because we're all busy and most of them are like bankers, lawyers, whatever, and we have a crazy work and life balance, or maybe I should say
Mhm.
imbalance. But
Yeah.
yeah, so for that hour, an hour and a half, like we have a great conversation. Like we joke about the past, all these
Mhm.
like ridiculous moments we had. So yeah, I noticed that. I think so, and I was thinking maybe when you mentioned that, maybe we're at that stage where we're starting to like miss ourselves.
Mhm.
Where we used to be, careless and like fearless, and
It's kind of like we're coming around full circle, right?
yeah, I think we're at that age. Yeah, and maybe in the next decade or so, it's going to be like the
For
next
my part, I
circle
noticed
and
that
so forth.
the reason why I haven't spoken to a lot of people from my past is because I think I've intentionally pushed some people away. And I think
Mm,
it's because part of the process of growth, at least for me, I think is
mm,
you needed to distance yourself a little bit from certain people or a certain time in your life to make
mm.
room to explore other facets of yourself.
True.
And then, but now that you've done that, you're comfortable again to make room for the people that have influenced you in other parts of your life, especially from the
Mm,
past. I've noticed
mm,
that for
mm,
myself. That's why I haven't seen them.
mm,
So maybe it's because now that I'm ready to open up again to them, they're just life is bringing them towards my direction again. I
mm,
kind of think that's what's happening, at least in my case.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your point. I think we're also wise enough to expect and also not expect from certain people that it's just the way it is. Some people might improve and some people might not change, for better or worse. And you get to learn to accept things the way things are. And I think it's easier that way because when you're still young and when you're still hopeful, you wish some things would get better, and you wish uh, certain things uh, keep improving. But like I said, at our age, I think most potential changes are pretty stagnant.
Yeah. I want to
And,
know if it's a
and
form of escapism on our part. I mean, at least
mm,
for me, I'm speaking for myself.
mm,
And if that's the case, what am I escaping from? Right? I mean, is there
mm,
something that's keeping me away from those things? Is there some trauma there that I'm trying to get away from? I have no idea.
mm. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, now that I've kind of synced into my last marriage, at least a few years ago, it was a little bit difficult to meet people who remembered too well about my first marriage. That I clearly
Mm,
remember avoiding. But
right.
but
Right.
after the second marriage, when our relationship kind of stabilized, I noticed I wanted to, also because I missed them, and I used to kind of resent people who didn't make it to my first marriage, but in a way that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a blessing in disguise. And
Right.
in a way, I don't have to explain to them what really happened, even
Yeah.
though I do.
Yeah.
There's this gap in their story where they don't really know too much, and that was kind of relieving, at least a few years ago.
Well, in a
Now I'm
way,
like, now
I
I'm
kind of
cool.
resent people who didn't show up when I was in the hospital as well. You
Mm,
know, I don't know. It's remember we talked about this. You know, when I saw you a couple of weeks ago, and then I feel that yeah, in a way, it's unfair. You know, because this is so complicated. People probably
mm,
don't even know how to start talking to you, right?
mm,
But remember, I told you that I really appreciated people who made an effort to come see me or like even send me a message or like
mm,
I don't know. I think it's unfair, but the fact remains that you know those who did come, I really appreciated that. So in a way, I kind of understand what you were saying that you know how you resented some people who didn't show up for your first marriage, for your first
mm,
wedding. Yeah, I mean those are you know milestones in your life, right? And then it could be a blessing later on, right? But
mm,
in the moment, you kind of like wish that people showed up, right?
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, like I said, we didn't cross paths after you visited. I think that was as you corrected, that was possibly slightly before my first marriage. Um, no, maybe that was a little bit earlier than that because my nephew passed in
Mm,
2013 summer. So maybe you
right.
visited before that because I'm not sure. No, because I clearly wouldn't have mentioned it,
Mm-hmm.
um, even though it did happen. But that
You know what I
clearly
think
kind of
though. Now that you mentioned that, sorry to cut you off. Just let me have this for a
no,
minute.
not at all, not at all, not at all.
I think that when we are confronted with mortality, right, or like if you're going through something that clearly changes your life, it kind of softens you up to the possibility that people could come back into your life because you realize that hey, you know, I don't really have that many opportunities to connect with people. Even
Mm,
though you would, you know, when you're young, you would think, oh, there's always tomorrow. I can always call that person next week, or like, oh, I'm sure I'm going to bump
mm,
into that person, or, oh, you know, I have common friends with that person, so we're bound to, you know, meet up and you know spend some time together. But I realized that as you get older, you realize that oh, things can change on a dime, right? It can happen so quickly. So the chances of you connecting with an old friend might not be as many or as much as you think, right? And so
right.
now that you realize that, you're more open to the possibility of like, hey, you know what? I should make a conscious effort to reconnect with people from my past because God knows how long we're all going to be here. I mean, I sound like such an old dude, right? Because
Mm,
you know, when you're in
mm,
your 50s, well, we're not in our 50s yet, but we're hitting that right soon. So you start thinking about those things. Does that make sense?
yeah, sure. I fully agree. You take before you face mortality, you take things for granted, and I think it's different from your old grandparents leaving,
Mm-hmm.
which is still sad and still painful. I mean you kind of see it coming, and I remember having a really hard time processing my paternal grandfather's death during my
Mm-hmm.
high school years, but it was like the first time I actually had to deal with a loss within the family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Fortunately and unfortunately, my other three grandparents passed away. Um, I think after, yeah, I think they all happened after my nephew's passing. So
Mm-hmm.
it was easier to process because it wasn't as sad as something that
Mm-hmm.
was so detrimental. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, and after after a really detrimental loss, you get to face life in a different way, and you notice things how you notice how fragile life is, and you notice everything is so finite. You get to appreciate things more, and I think you take many things for more gratefully than before.
Yeah. I mean, you and I obviously know what it's like to lose someone very dear to us, right? And I think the challenge really is to find a way to keep on going despite what happened. I think
Mm-hmm.
that so I draw inspiration from other people, including yourself, after I found out. And then yeah, for me, I mean, like, because these things happen to many people actually,
Yeah,
and life happens, right? So I think that really the inspiration for me is how people find courage to keep going despite what happened.
mm.
That really is the key.
Yeah. It also opens your eyes. How many tragedies you might not know of among your close friends and
Yeah,
families.
yeah, that's true. Sometimes I don't want to go on, you know.
Right.
Is that too much to say? I just
No,
being
not at all.
totally,
Not at all. I fully agree. I fully
yeah,
agree.
being totally honest. Like there are days when, especially in the beginning, I was like, none of this makes any sense. You know, none of this is meaningful. Yeah, there are
Right.
days when I was like, I don't want to keep going. It's too much. You know, what's the
Mm.
point? You know, and then enough time passes by, and then you heal a little bit, and then there are other reasons to live for, and you find a way to go on. But it's hard, right?
Yeah, probably. Honestly, it was probably my first time where I not only. So I talked about this with my family, and I think I already mentioned to you that I was like, I would not hesitate for a moment to exchange my life for my nephew.
Yeah,
And that's what
yeah.
I remember exactly at what time and where I was driving with my dad, and he told me, "You're not the only one who probably thinks that way."
Mm-hmm,
And it's. I think it was fair for him to mention that among the because this was before I got married, among the five people of my immediate family, my brother, his wife, my parents,
yeah.
I probably had less of a burden than the four of them,
Mm,
which I think was fair.
right,
But yeah,
right.
getting back to the point, it was probably the first time I would not hesitate to exchange my life
Mm-hmm,
or just not even like continue, even
mm-hmm,
though my nephew is not directly linked to me.
mm-hmm,
It's how much he meant to us.
right.
Yeah. So yeah. So in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
we're happy. I was really happy. My mom told me about my dad being
Mm,
quite happy about a boy coming back to our lives
mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm,
we were thinking two is enough,
yeah,
and since my brother both has girls,
right.
yeah, it really felt good when I was told by my mother that my father that he's genuinely happy. There's a boy
Mm,
who's back in the
right,
family
right.
for many reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. I find it helpful when, you know, I remind myself of that other people are, you know, going through struggles as well. Other families are going through struggles. Like it keeps me grounded. Like, for example,
Mm,
if sometimes I turn on TV and I watch news and you see like, you know, for example, a whole family just got a bomb dropped on their heads and people pass away, you know, it's very
yeah.
tragic. And then it keeps me grounded knowing that you're not the only one who's going through something, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Even though at times we feel like we're the only ones, which I think it's fair to say. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
I was really surprised when, like I said, some people who made an effort to come see us, they started sharing, you know, some of their more personal stories. And you realize
Mm,
that, oh gosh, yeah. So like everybody's going through something, you know. So like death in the family, people getting sick, loss of a loved one, you know. Everybody experienced that to some degree, and you know, it's nothing to celebrate, but it does remind you that yeah, it sucks, but you know, you're not the only one going through that. That helps me somewhat, if I'm being
mm,
honest. And then we mentioned last time we saw each other that, you know, a new birth in the family also kind of helps with that, filling up that hole, because I think that for me, life is incessant. It will demand your attention. Like if another life comes, it's almost brutal in its way that it demands your attention and your presence. Like when you lose someone, you're constantly wallowing, right? And you're in a state where it's just so hard to get out of that hole. And that's perfectly understandable. But when a new life comes, it has a way of just being indiscriminate in the way it demands your attention. It's like, yes, your loss sucks, but you have to pay attention to me now because I'm here, And in a way, I appreciated that because it grips you. Probably the only force in the universe that's able to take you out of your wallowing misery and demand that you stay in the present because you have to be. You're responsible for that life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I found that
there's
amazing.
no hesitation.
Yeah, it's unforgiving. It'll be like, but I'm here. I know you're hurting, but I'm here. So you have to pay attention now. It's just, it's so unforgiving.
Yeah,
you know what?
I noticed that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that after my brother lost their son, they had two daughters almost immediately, and although I knew they always thought about him, and I later found out that the consonants of their daughters' names, if you reverse the last consonant of the first one and the second one, that happens to be their son's name. And I once inferred to my brother if that was intentional, and he says he just kind of said it's not a coincidence. It's, I'm not sure if it was intended in the beginning. So it clearly, and my mother once mentioned that their passwords, and they still have their photos like in their bedroom and whatever, which is a very different way my parents had to deal with, because they, from day one of the tragedy, they tried very hard to get rid of it, not completely, but like in a box or whatever. And I always wanted to ask them why.
Yeah.
And I later found out. But I noticed my brother and his wife were doing much better when I realized their top priority and their energy was clearly consumed in raising the two daughters they had. When I thought that the two daughters made them busy, that's when I noticed, okay, they're completely in the present, living their lives as they should be. Yeah, so
it will demand all you've got, right? Because
you
don't want to fuck up. You want to be the best that you can for the new life that's here, right?
I still sense my brother being paranoid when there are safety issues.
Oh God, Jesus, of course, much more so now. Yeah,
not just his kids, even for me, because he barely tells me what to do. But when I sent him pictures of me and my daughter like in a running car without a car seat, and even though we were congested in a traffic jam, like she was in my hands, like up in the air, and we were just like joking about it. And he's like, don't do it. He's like,
I mean, just today, just this afternoon, for example, my wife asked me to take our little girl to the mall, right, to meet up with some other friends because they were like having a little play date at the mall. And then I was just so stressed during the entire thing because I felt like I couldn't control the environment or the situation because the area where they were playing was quite close to escalators, and you know how escalators are like magnets for trouble, right? For accidents. And so I was like constantly stressed because I have to pay attention to the kids. They were running around and then they were having a great time, but then as an adult you have to kind of supervise. I couldn't be that chill compared to some of the moms there because I realized that it's because I'm much more vigilant now because of what happened, right? I can't afford another loss like that. I don't know how I will recover from something like that. So like I'm very stressed, and they couldn't understand why I was so stressed out. They're like, "Oh, just sit down. Why are you so stressed?" I said, "I don't know this whole thing because I can't control it. I'm not on top of this environment or this situation. It's stressing me out. I can't help it." Oh, yeah, you bring up a good point, man. Yeah.
And I think it's also a personality thing, but sometimes when a lot of things go through my head. Like I'm usually, when it comes to risk or safety issues, I simulate a lot of things in my head, which is
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I think it took, because my wife is a lot more, I don't want to say adventurous, but she's not as meticulous or
Yeah, she's just, yeah, my wife as
careful as
well.
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's just kind of
yeah,
like let
she's
things
more
go because they,
relaxed,
yeah, exactly.
and I
Yeah.
think now, after we have been married for more than 4 years, is it four? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so more than 4 years. Um, I've gained her trust because I see things coming. And even though she didn't agree in the beginning, now she kind of, like, not fully, but she trusts me that I'm the safer, more risk averse person when it comes to, like,
Well, one
safety
of you
and
has to be, right? One of
yeah,
you in
yeah,
the
yeah.
marriage
And it's
has
a
to
good
be.
combination as well. And I wouldn't like my better half to be like me, because you don't want two paranoid
Yeah,
parents
exactly. It
looking
has to
at the same
balance
thing.
out. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the Hindu god. One god creates and one god
Oh
maintains, and
yeah. Oh yeah,
one
yeah.
god
Or
destroys.
the Korean flag, right? It's all about yin and yang. It's a balance, right? Isn't it a perfect example? Yeah, I'm so clever at
I
it.
have a really funny joke about that, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, there's a Korean stand-up guy who talked about that. It's a really funny sexual joke, but we'll talk about that in a different session. I'm
Switching
sure I'll
gears,
remember that.
switching gears a little bit though. I realized that the
Sure.
email you gave me, your name
Uh-huh.
there is Chuck. Is that what they called you when you were abroad studying as a student, as a little boy? Is
No,
that what they
actually,
called you?
no. That's I have no documentation. That's like my alter ego when I joined Samsung. Like, I had to come up with an English name, and um,
Oh, so
yeah, it's
in a
my
different universe, you're called Chuck.
yeah, that's actually my official name in Samsung. But
Oh, okay.
to be fully transparent and comfortably honest, I there's no single documentation that calls me Chuck. Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
so
So a lot
weird though for me to call you Chuck. Ew, it's like it's so weird.
of that's what my high school friends told me when I emailed them, like, through my yeah. So the reason why you have my Chang Han Facebook is that's my real Facebook.
Right, that's the real you.
Yeah.
Who's this Chuck person? Jesus. Like, what'd you do with that Chang? Where's Chang? Who's Chuck?
That's my separate brand, I would say.
So that clears it
That's
up.
my
I thought for
Samsung
sure
brand.
that
Yeah.
that was like kind of like your given name when you were studying in Africa and all the other places that you've been to. Like somebody just, kind of christened you Chuck.
Mm.
From this day on, you shall be known as Chuck. But when I think about it, it's not a bad name. It's like, yeah, it kind of does kind of fit you in a way. Yeah. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, okay. I can see you being a Chuck. Chuck Han. So I wanted to
Yeah.
ask
So
you. I
Chuck
wanted to
dot
ask you
yeah,
though.
Chuck. Sure,
No,
sure.
I wanted to ask you this. So you mentioned you wanted to have an adventure being a manager in a different country, right, outside of Korea.
Hmm.
So like,
Hmm.
where do you get this courage and sense of adventure in our age? Because most people, in our age when you're nearing 50, just want stability. They just want to be close to home. They just want to, like they don't aspire for too much risk anymore at this age. Like, but where do you get your sense of adventure? I find that pretty amazing, especially the country that you're planning to go
I,
to.
I think it's a combination of, so there are three layers to the story. Clearly, three layers. One that has been underlying in my life is, before I was even old enough to have kids, I've always kind of simulated inside my mind how I should replicate my life for my kids. And the story has always been updated on depending on where I was, how I was, and also, realistically, it also happens to depend on my career. What depending on what career I should have. And I briefly thought about it when I just got married to my wife, and um, since I could possibly get financial
Well, there's that
help
the
from that.
incentives,
Yeah,
right?
but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, paying out yourself is not always the best way to live abroad. Um, and having a career in a third country is also a big factor. So I've always thought about replicating my life and giving that to my kids as a learning process, and also which happens to be one of my biggest gifts from my parents. So that was like always underlying. But career wise, it also makes sense because I'm managing a
You want
regional
more, yeah,
office.
of course. Like
Yeah, yeah,
a post abroad usually means more responsibility, more pay. It's like
realistically, at my age, I'm at the brink where if I don't progress here, it's never going to come. So,
yeah,
and
that's
who knows?
true.
Yeah, and who
Yeah.
knows? And who knows if it's going to happen or not? And trust me, it's good. We had a call today, earlier today, with the Indian office, and everyone's really stressed out, and it was honestly one of the most. It could have been more. Let's just say it could have been a lot more constructive. The meeting was constructive at all, and
All I can
I
say
understand.
is kudos to you for being so brave because I don't think I can manage that anymore. I don't have it in me anymore. And I think a lot of people our age are probably kind of like, mellowing out, whereas you still have that fire. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also, and thirdly,
It's
it's
that
not
Chuck
just a career
fire.
move. It's also a financial. It also makes sense financially because since India is not like the most desired country in Samsung, in Korea, there has to be like a better package. So realistically, that also gives me like more financial autonomy as well. And it's just I thought about it a lot, and my ex-wife didn't really appreciate her because she also worked in the same company, so she didn't have to go, but she kind of, like she
Yeah,
not
but
not
whatever the case,
explicitly, but she,
I'm really just
right.
in awe. I'm like trying to pay you a compliment here.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
nothing really amazing. A lot like certain people,
No, no,
have
dude, you'd be
certain
amazed.
choices.
No, 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 no. You'd be surprised. Like, if we were back in our 30s, sure, sure. Like, being posted abroad. Remember some of our supervisors from, the former company that we
Yeah,
worked
yeah,
at?
yeah.
A lot of them were like dying to get posted abroad, right? Because it means
Mm,
like a different opportunity, like level up and, just change of environment. I get that. I get that. But if you were in your 30s, fine, even early 40s, but then in your late 40s, about to hit 50, with a convergence of all this stuff that we talked about earlier about parents getting older, your kids, your spouse, whatever, like everything is just converging at this point in our lives, right? Late 40s.
mm.
And making a move like that, hats off to you, sir. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I really don't have much choice, and who knows? Maybe I won't make it. Maybe even if I do, I'll be super stressed and regret it. But yeah, I'm just heading to that direction and seeing what happens. And
That's
yeah,
that's the guy that I know, man. You always had that fire.
ask me later when I actually make it. I might regret it, but
Oh. Well, beats like if you ask
we'll
me like,
see.
"Hey, what are you doing?" Oh, nothing much. Just went on a play date. Got stressed out by a couple of escalators. Like that sounds so much better than that, right? Like, what did
No,
you do?
but
Oh, I don't know.
I totally see. I would be equally stressed because I don't really like escalators when it comes to little kids. Yeah,
It's not a good mix. That's all I'm saying, man.
no. It's yeah. You get this mental picture that's not really pretty,
Yeah,
and
yeah, dude. Like I can't deal with that. So
yeah, I sometimes question myself when I'm too paranoid about certain things that might happen.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to safety and to do with kids.
Right. Well, I mean,
Mm,
we're running out of time, but I think we should pick up from there the next time we talk. I want to talk more about
sure.
like kids and our kind of like maybe we can exchange some ideas about like how do we go about raising good kids. 'Cause
Mm,
nobody's perfect at this job, right? Being a parent is never easy.
mm,
I think in a way, like I feel like I'm a kid growing up. So like in a way, my kids are growing up with me. We're all
sure.
becoming adults together in a way.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to pick your brain
Mm,
on that one of these days. Maybe we can
sure.
do it in our
That's
own in a separate podcast, right? When we do a separate channel, maybe we can dive into that. We can do that too.
mm. Yeah, sounds good. But if I want to mention something that I remember from Jordan Peterson, it was counterintuitive. But what he said was, when you see a kid doing something potentially dangerous,
Yeah.
his advice was if you see the kid being very careful about what he does, which is potentially very dangerous. Like, for example, he never mentioned anything specific, but I pictured a little kid playing in a jungle gym, which can be dangerous. But his advice was if you see the kid being very careful about it,
Mm.
you should never stop him
Oh, yeah, I see what you
because the
mean.
kid knows it's dangerous and he's practicing to be safe.
Yeah. So it's like a constant tension of that. How much do you
Right,
let them
right.
grow and fall by themselves, and how much do you protect them? And with that, because we're really running out of time, we will
Mhm.
pick that up from where we left off, right? Next time we talk to each other.
Sounds good.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
man. Thanks for chat today. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is nice. We'll talk some more soon,
Likewise,
okay?
likewise. It was really enjoyable. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Vic.
Bye.
Have a good one.